Hello, dear friend. Today I have invited my friend Braely back to the cafe to see how Mogstock went this year. When we last spoke, Braely was getting ready for quite the busy weekend, and I know she was busy. I made sure to come by Mogstock, and I sincerely hope you found time to go by the event as well. But I'm sure you're wondering, how did it go? What were the big highlights? Well, that's why I asked Braely to come over. Let's find out together. Brayley, welcome back to Coffee and Carbuncles. I'm very happy to have you back. It's been a very busy 2 weeks for both of us, but I'll start by asking the obvious. How are you? Are you doing well?
Hey there, Nobu. It's good to be back. I am doing really well, actually. I'm super happy to have experienced Mogstock, and I'm super happy that it's done. It's kind of like going on vacation. You're always happy when you get home too. But yeah, I'm doing well. I think that I've stopped, like worrying about things when I go to sleep. Like, did I get this done? What do I need to go? Who needs to be reached out to? We were joking in my FC that it's kind of like inviting half of Eorzea or the servers all around the world into our living room for the weekend. And thankfully they bring the instruments, but other than that, yeah, I'm doing great. And I'm really, really proud of everyone that was involved in Modstock this year and what we were able to pull off. So yeah.
I'm glad. And from what you told me, you also went to an in-person festival this weekend, so you've been kind of busy with the whole music thing.
Yeah, yeah. I went to 2 concerts this summer. I was really lucky. And this particular concert for me this weekend was especially kind of it was a moment. It was kind of like what I guess you'd call a bucket list moment because I had seen Sarah McLachlan a few times when I was much younger, when she was still doing the Lilith Festival. And for me, she was the I guess you'd say like an inspirational singer when I was younger. She was one of that I looked at and I was like, heck yeah, she's so cool. Her resonated with me, and she was one of the first Bard songs that I learned. I kept bugging Clay, like you need to help me get Sarah McLachlan songs so that I can do those. And yeah, so this particular weekend I got the opportunity to not just go see Sarah McLachlan again, but also to bring my daughters with me. So I've got two daughters that are young, like but not super young or anything like that. But they got to go and see my favorite musician, and we went to a concert together. It was really neat.
That sounds magical.
It was. It was nothing short of.
I'm so glad that your family got to experience that.
Yeah, it was so cool. And what was really neat about it is that one of the things that I noticed about her music is that it matured with her, which was just like, wow, that's so cool. Like the stories that she was telling in her music, they were different than her younger stories, obviously, and she's not old or anything. It's not like she's, ready to kick the bucket. She's still a relatively, you know, youngish, middle-aged artist, but at the same time, how it presents is the music that she was, kind of interspersed with her old stuff, and she was so great in how she presented well, sing-alongs and, like, kinda jazzing the audience up with, like, "Everybody knows this one, come on," and she would, like, do the thing of they call the going silent and letting the audience sing, and she did that on one of my particular favorites, which is her song "Ice Cream," and I was just like, "Hell yeah, this is so cool." And my daughters super loved it too, so it was great.
Wonderful. So, this is meant to be a follow up to our interview 2 weeks ago about Mogstock. So,
Mhm.
I'm just going to dive in. How was Mogstock this year? Tell me all about it.
It was exhausting and awesome and chaotic and amazing, and I guess it was wonderful. It occasionally had its moments of like, "Oh, you know what?" But, we held it together. We held it together. We communicated. We, put out any little last minute fires. We were all kind of, I think, by the end of it, kind of awake sheerly by caffeine. Like not like we were all just we had it was funny. I festival organizer at the end of festival, even in game, has a kind of certain crazy eye look to it that I think that only others that have been in that position can understand. It's definitely got its own personality, right? And this year felt really alive for its own reasons, but every year it has its I feel like each mog stack takes on a personality. There were a lot of days happening. There were moments where I would just kind of stop and pause and be like, "Oh my gosh, it's all of these things that I worried about, they came together." And all of these things that, my friends that organized it with me were worried about, those things came together. And we had moments of together going, "Oh my gosh, look at all these people. Are you kidding me? 6 years later and they still like it this much." And every year having the new people coming in going, "When's next year's Mogstock? Are you still doing it?" Like that. It was great. And there was a lot of dancing, there was listening to music, there was art, there was tarot readings, there was just so much role play. And we were so happy to be able to, like deliver once again on what it is that we hoped that we would be able to deliver. So that's the whole point of it. That's when all of the work becomes worth it.
I bet so. I mean, it's so wonderful when you see planning and timing and also, most importantly, interest come together and just seeing
Yeah.
something that the community really wants to embrace.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish more people knew about it. But then at the same time, because of 2 years ago, and 2 years, the personality, as I said, the 2 years ago personality was that we kept having people because of all of the server issues of like, that server is congested. We had a lot of people not making it and like last minute issues because of the server is congested. This band can't get here, or this DJ can't get here. So at least, this year it felt like Square Enix had addressed that some.
Yeah, I definitely feel like compared to previous years, I think the server capacity is a lot better now, or at least a lot more stable than it used to be.
Yeah, I think that they maybe opened up a little bit more of how many could be on a server rather than locking it down how they were.
That whole, like, Shadowbringers to Endwalker era, server stability didn't really keep up with, like, player base growth very well, and it was kinda wild.
Right. Yeah, no, and it really messed with a lot of events, and certainly it messed with Modstock to the point that it became a built-in function of Modstock that we were, like, kind of getting almost naggy parent of, like, "You need to get on the server the day before, okay? Go and log out on Mateus the day before because it's not gonna treat you kindly if you try to do this an hour or even a half hour before the performance. You're not gonna have everybody you're gonna get congestion because we're a big festival and we can't even guarantee that we're the only thing going on Mateus, like, you have to be ready." So, people were ready, but it did seem like one of the nice things was that the visitors were able to get there too, right? So, that was nice.
Was there anything new this year that you hadn't had previous years at Mogstock?
So, yes and no. We're always tinkering, right? And some of the changes aren't necessarily things that I think guests would notice, but they're kind of done to make the festival flow better. So yes, on that in that sense. One of the things that was different, but it was actually kind of us reverting, was that we brought all of the venue houses. Now we made a deliberate effort of people that are involved in our C mates and whatnot getting properties in Ward. um, 22 this year, so that any of the properties that came free, um, we had a whole bunch of people that were like, "Yes, you can use my property during Mogstock if, like, when Mogstock comes along, you can use this as a venue." So, we had that during the first years, but people lose property, they get larger houses, or they stop playing the game. And we had kind of dwindled on properties, and we had made the executive decision for a few years to move the venues back into the apartments because you never lose apartments, and it's all kind of stuck together, like, so that if somebody wanted to go to one of the venues, they could go into the apartment, and they it kind of like is if like you're going to a mall food court was the idea, was that if you go there, you're going to where all of the venues are going to be found. Now, the problem is that the Amethyst Shallows and Lily Hills Apartments are pretty far away in the ward, and a lot of people weren't sure, like, where the venues were. Even though we communicated it obviously on the map and we would yell about it, the foot traffic wasn't quite as organic or authentic. But this year, shifting things back towards where the manor was and where Camp Cloud Top was and Bards and Brews, and Sodalicious was right down near Tonberry and Amethyst Shallows, and then the Shroud Rose Tea House was right next to Camp Cloud Top. So it all worked out really well, and that was probably the biggest change. But I don't think that people necessarily see that as like a change that they would actively think about. I think that it's more like festival organizers would more think about that and how is that gonna go. And then actually one of the activities that we did was tarot reading, and that was kind of a really popular thing this year. And I think that we'll continue doing it next year. We had a lot of fun doing that, and it went really well because we were right next to the artists. So people that were waiting for art would come and get their cards read, and it was just a little 3 card spread, but it was neat. It really kind of and we had, like, individual bards, then individual, like, sync performers kind of doing that, and then inside were the macro dancers, and oh my gosh, they were so amazing this year. And I've actually gotta thank you, Nova, because it was through you that I got to, I guess, buddy up with some of the macro dancers a little bit more and get to know them a little bit more because we were talking about our experiences with you, and they are such an amazing crew, and I can't shout out them enough for their patience and kindness, even though I nearly messed things up in a royal way, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But they were so great about it, and wow, what an experience, right?
I'm glad. I'm very glad. If I can help the community come together in any way, then I am totally here for that, and I'm thankful.
Yeah, yeah, I think you might have saved my duff as far as, like, them hitting the note. I wasn't just being a diva about it, that it was an honest to goodness mistake that I kind of I didn't realize some of the particular the how much goes into the setup for macro dancers. And I learned, in the frying pan as it were this year, but they were so patient and so kind and then put on such tremendous shows. So boy, oh boy, like not only were our bards amazing, amazing, but all of the other things came together in such a way that I couldn't be happier. And I know that the other organizers feel the same. Like we're like, okay, well, we're going to take these lessons into next year and use them to inform how we operate in the future. And I'm excited for it.
Wonderful. I'm really glad that things turned out,
Yeah.
but I do wanna ask, you mentioned it briefly earlier. How was turnout this year? Like, hopefully it was pretty good. It sounds from what you said earlier like a lot of people showed up, so let's expand on that a little.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, it was fantastic. Probably the day that we were worried about most, because there was a little less turnout than we were used to, was Saturday, but there were a lot of other things that were going in congruence with it. And FanFest was happening, and then there was a couple of other festivals on, I want to say Dynamis and one either on Aether, I think. I don't know. But even so, it wasn't like we were hurting for people. It was just it wasn't quite the and I can't even barely load my screen with all of the people here loads. It was just a really great crowd. I, for one, was pretty happy with it. Like, I was like, this is perfect for role play and for people to enjoy. Um, but when we were, like if you're checking numbers or counting numbers, Saturday has always traditionally been our really, really big day, but Sunday was this year. But honestly, that's one of those little things that still humbles me. Like, it just you spend a lot of months, you're planning, right? And eventually the festival time comes around and you open the doors or you open the boats and people roll over from Gridania to the Amethyst Shallows, and you're hoping that people actually come, right? Like you're hoping that something is happening. It's just a small crowd and all of this, hype doesn't amount to recognition that artists and creatives deserve for the work they do. And then suddenly you turn around and you're looking at all of these different servers and having fun and making friends. And my goal is always like I want to make at least 3 new friends that are gonna stick with me every Mogstock. And I definitely, like I and I when I say new friends, I'm saying like, like friends that are like actual like, oh wow, we've got this and this is super cool. Uh, the big standout for me of that one is Vale of the Highland Lassies. The, they and I got along so well, and the macrosers are the other ones. Then I mean, there's so many people, right? But um, just people that I wouldn't have ordinarily met without the festival. And that's an extraordinary feeling. It's performers coming together, type of performance, people wandering around role playing because oftentimes just because like your friend is like, oh, come with me. I don't want to go by myself. And the friend is, wait, what is this? I ended up having a couple of artists because the role play tarot that I did, but I wanna thank you because they were like, "What how much should this cost?" And we're like, "No, it doesn't cost anything. We don't charge at Modstock." And they're like, "Well, would you be okay if we drew you?" And both of them drew the most amazing pictures of me that I was like, "I guess I got this artist," and it's going up on my card for sure. That's the spirit of it is that it's a place that people come back to year, and the circles grow, the circles change a little bit, but um, pe- people find new things to them every year at Mogstock because maybe they haven't experienced this part of Mogstock. And I remember having that conversation with people that they were like, well, every year I've gone and I've done this and I've done this. And this year I really wanted to make it a point to visit this much to me. So, yeah, I think that we're doing good. I think turnout was great, and I think that it's doing exactly what it needs to be doing.
That's wonderful. And I've noticed that I've been seeing over the past few years tarot readings showing up more and more at large in-game events. And so that's been
Mhm,
interesting to
mhm.
witness. Like just the steady growth of that. Not not so much I haven't seen a ton of new people doing tarot in 14, but I've seen them be incorporated into large scale events more and more. And that's been an interesting
Good.
growth to watch.
Yeah, well, and that's partially there's a couple reasons for that. One, it's a heavy role play element that, a lot of venues will use. It's like they've got a tarot reader, And there's different types of tarot readings that, that you can do. And I think that I pointed out that I'm one of a group of people, um, beer and kind of homeland traditional role play group of the Vieran culture, if you look at it, is derivative from pagan, mostly Norse pagan, but Square Enix is often you see the little elements or the little kind of like not other fandoms or other creative outlets, and paganism is frequently kind of spotted in beer and culture. So we use and I told you that before, the Final Fantasy Witch of the Fens storyline to build our lore off of for the Covenstead, and we were like, well, what could we offer? It's the Covenstead that is kind of unique to us. It's not like we're not going to be big spooky witches to people. So we were like, well, why don't we just set up the porch and have all of the different, or several of the different people that role play part of this community doing free card tarot spreads, and people were coming up, and we just were constantly busy. Like we had lines just like the artist. It was great.
Yeah, I definitely see the paganism, throughout Viren culture, Viren outfits, etc. And I think that that's really neat.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad that people had fun with it and that it melted in like it did with the broader festival. We weren't sure. And now we've got our answer, I guess. So next year, tarot readings are on the table.
I'm sure a lot of people will be looking forward to that.
I hope so. I had a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Have you gotten a lot of feedback in regards to like the tarot readings and the the sort of change up of, venues being used more? Like what has feedback been like this year?
Oh boy, feedback has been phenomenal. We've gotten little things here and there. We didn't do a feedback form this year. Instead, we have been reaching out individually to people and asking what they thought and kind of having conversations. What we found about feedback is that feedback is most productive when it's a conversation and not when it's a grievance. The people who are most likely to give feedback are usually people that were super happy or people that had a very specific and highly, like, I am upset about this thing and you need to change it kind of. And those things are useful, right? It's useful to know that somebody really, really loved this or somebody really, really disliked your experience with that, but they don't necessarily give the same kind of understanding that like feedback from a whole festival perspective allows you to have. And so, and also, like kind of what you're saying, like the questions that you're asking me to reflect on, like what are the changes that you made and how do they impact the festival? That's what a conversation allows versus a form, I think, because people aren't going to know. They might know, or might not put the same kind of emphasis on it, right? Mm, So overall, I mean, feedback was wonderful. Uh, Feedback was honest. There was the areas where we did stumble. People were super thoughtful about it and offered solutions, and in some cases offered help. Like next year, if you'd like, I'll be involved with helping organize this. Solana, for instance, and I were talking, and she was like, "Yeah, if you need next year, reach out to me, and I'll help you organize this so that we've got it all squared away, so that way you're not having to worry about it." And both Zyla and I were like, "Yes, please, and thank you. You are amazing." Like it's that kind of, that's the kind of feedback that I think continues to make our festival and others like it, I'm sure, thrive in a way that is meaningful for both us and for the people that we're serving as festival goers.
And it also, I mean, it shows a genuine interest from the community in not only keeping the event going, but also possibly expanding it and making sure that there's room there for it to continue, for it to grow, and for it to just continue being this event that the entire community can hopefully really get involved in.
Yeah, yeah, charming kind of moment in time that people can look forward to, people can be a part of, people can celebrate each other at. That's the idea, and there was a lot of that going on, so I think that, it was good, like, had you probably talked to me a day or 2 after the festival, my mind was still in picking it apart and, like, what went wrong so that we know to watch for it next year. But then you get about a week, like, the lens zooms out, you're looking from a little bit further away, and having talked to more people and heard about their experiences and calmed down about the things that, obviously we beat ourselves up about, I'm super happy. I know that Zyla is, I know that Quaid is, I know that Vi is, I know that Doc is, I know that Ledwin is, I know that Zero is, and we've all our little things that and Ford is, and Ford was super happy about I love that the new stadium for volleyball. I was I was so stoked when that thing came together. It turned out so cool with the new item count for yards. I got to get so like crazy on the yard, and my bestie Stella was Davina was helping me with it, and we were having so much fun making it. And people were like, "This is the best ball report ever." And he's like, "Well, heck yeah, it is because they gave us so many more items to play with." And it was that really cool.
And having seen a lot of the decorations and stuff, I mean, there was a lot of work that went into that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I literally start 2 months in advance. I am the designer for them. And I start about 2 months in advance and talk to the venues. Some of them are like once they've got it down, like they're like, "Yep, just go with we love what you did. Please, please don't change things. Don't, like throw us into a tailspin, go with it." And we try to make sure that each venue stands out, that it would be almost as if, like this is the professional kind of what I would give to clients if they were to come in and commission me for a design. Cause that's how, we talked about that last time we talked. That's how I got involved as a commission housing designer. And if somebody comes to me and says like, "Hey, can you do my venue for me?" Um, I take that very seriously, and I've got a very high standard and want for them to walk away both like feeling happy with how I worked with them and trusting in the fact that they're not going to get ripped off for all of the hard earned gil that they are going to be spending on it, right? But then also that, like I want it to reflect the quality of work that myself and the team that I work with believe is not only possible, but deserved for each and every venue, that, like, it's a new experience, it's novel, and that it reflects the personality and the kind of quality of 'em or interaction that they want to see in their venue. So, when I'm making each of these little venues for Mogstock, I had to make a decision of what level I'm gonna put in, and I just me being who I am, I was like, I've just gotta put it in the same I mean, this has to be the kind of work that I would do for a venue regardless, right? And so when you see those are the when you go into the venues, that's the, kind of outcome of many, 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 many hours. And thankfully, I'm surrounded by talented housing designers and Um, Ledwin and Stella are the team that I've been with for years, obviously doing housing design. But this year we were joined by Revna Anaria as well. And Zyla also has been picking up her housing game and is doing some amazing designs. And there was a lot of great feedback. So it wasn't just me kind of like shouldering it this time. There was a lot of like, "Hey, try this or that, or let's do this or that," So I think this year our venues really, really were top notch. I'm just saying, I get to brag a little.
No, I mean, it's well deserved.
Yeah, well, people, and it just makes me smile so big when people are talking about like, oh my gosh, just if they notice like little things that I was geeking out on when I was doing the design, then I'm like, oh, they noticed, and that's cool. So you get to kind of show off, and just like the artist, that's where it kind of designs of seeing people kind of about my things.
So, were there any unexpected moments this year, like anything that really surprised you?
Huh. Yes. The dancing thing definitely was probably the most unexpected, and I was a big goof with them after all of that. I was just like throwing myself at them. Like, please forgive me. Oh my goodness. Basically, I just understanding that they needed certain stage elements and targeting elements. Learning a little bit more about that. I like I said, I had kind of a crash course in things that dancers that are doing macro dances need. And it's not like a bard ensemble that's gonna just run up on a stage and do their act. There needs to be things that are a little bit more in place for them to be able to test the environment. And I don't consider myself quite the novice that I was prior in that regard. But unexpectedly neat for me as somebody who my family heritage is very heavily Scots. So, growing up, I actually, with my family, we would go to a lot of the Highland festivals, and my dad was super into the caber tossing, and then another person in my family actually plays the bagpipes. Um, so that's always been like, heavily ingrained in my culture, personally, out of character. And for me, at least individually, like as a festival goer rather than a festival organizer, it was the moment of seeing like, oh my gosh, there's a whole band that did like the Highland Festival like shtick. So I was so stoked about that. Um, let's see, for venues, uh, just like the continued commitment to being in character and promoting the festival as the festival, and also getting to share their venue with people. Massive shout out to all of the people that brought their venues to us. Our newbies, so delicious, who were excellent, and all of the venues that have returned with us year to year. Bondi, Puku's, the Shroud Rose, Bards and Brews, Hunter's Respite. And Hunter's Respite actually was new this year as well. I keep wanting to think that they were with us last year, but they weren't. And Hunter's Respite and So Delicious were right down at the waterfront, and all of the people that were involved with that, like, thank you. Wow, you did such an amazing job. You brought the magic of your venues and the magic of the festival. I mean, everything about this festival is such a, kind of Reese's peanut butter cup ad, and, like take two things and smash them together, and it's amazing. Um, so yeah, like those for me are the real moments. Like, and I should I need to, like focus in on the fact that bards have been struggling, having um a lot of players think that happens for entertainment. So, it's a competing thing, and I know that everybody appreciates the level of work that bards, especially ensembles, are putting into their work. And year after year, the bards that we have that bring their A game and their beautiful music that they are is developing and um, translating from, sheet music into playable midis into game, and let alone not just like, always on individual instruments, but on, like for entire ensembles is just beyond the pale amazing. And, massive shout out to each and every ensemble that has played for us every year or just, been new to the festival this year. We couldn't do it without you, and we know that. And Mogstock would be a very different thing without you, and the magic that you bring each year is so special to us. The streamers, the like all of that. Like I feel like the problem with Mogstock is that and this is a cool problem to have, is that there's so many different groups that come together that I'm always worrying about. Did I make sure that I thanked everybody? Because the tremendous amount of effort from so many different quadrants is I don't think that I can even really, like explain it well enough, but it's truly there.
Oh, well, since you're thanking, all the people that came and all of the performers and all of that, let me take this instance to say thank you to you and the rest of your staff. I mean, without the effort you guys put into this 3 days that obviously everyone sees, but also the months of work that predate that, I think that it's phenomenal. And I'm glad that I found time to drop in this year. I got time to hang out with you, and that was a lot of fun. But just seeing the amount of people there, seeing all the performances, I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're listening to this and didn't attend this year, you have 12 months to prepare, and I definitely encourage you to attend next year. And if you did attend this year, then I think Brayley and I both strongly encourage you to come back next year too.
And to bring a friend, right? You're not wrong.
You're
It is. I Yeah, yeah. Bring some friends with you. Have fun. Stay the weekend. Um, and yeah, no, you're so to the thanks. You're welcome. Thank you for letting us um and do this and supporting us in our goals with this every year. I know that I can speak for all of the organizers. I talked to them about the interviews that you and I were doing, and um, they were so supportive about it and like so excited um, just to have word getting out about Mogstock. Even though we know that a lot of people know, like not everybody does. The Final Fantasy community is massive, so there's just as good of a chance as not that you might have heard of it, but you might not have. And um, our goal is that anytime that people are talking about Mogstock, that they understand the labor of love that it truly is and how welcome they are to be a part of it. And for those that were unable this year, we hope that we can arrange it for next year to see you back or to see new faces that want to come next year. Like it's I walked away and that's a good thing, feeling like, yep, we can do this again. Every year is kind of like do we have it in us? And every year the answer keeps miraculously being yes, we do. And then about a month out from Mogstock, we're like, are we sure? And then Mogstock comes and like, yes, we're sure. It's that whole like the story arc of Mogstock every year.
And hopefully next year you and I can hang out again.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. And I would love to maybe have a note. You know what? I'm proposing it right now, Nobu. I think you should have like an interview corner.
I've seen some podcast hosts do that before,
Yep.
and It's an intriguing idea. I mean, now that you're mentioning it, like, hit me up a few months before 2027 Mogstock, and let's see
For
where we're
sure.
at.
Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool where like I create a little space for you that was like tailored for Nobu? And I'm already envisioning it. It's already in my mind. A grand idea is happening. And this is what it would look like. We would have festival goers sign up in advance so that way and you can maybe have this is what I want to talk about, like a little thing where when they sign up and maybe a little pre-screening room where okay, if you're going to be doing this, this is what I need from you. And then you can just pull them in and do like a little mini interview, like, what are you doing? What are you enjoying? And so you don't get it from our perspective as the organizers. Instead, you get it from the perspectives of people that are enjoying the festival. I think that would be super cool.
Hit me up about this next year, and we will see where we're at because that's an intriguing idea, and we'll see what we can do.
I would love that. I would love it. And I guarantee you that I am hitting you up next time or next year in what, April, let's say, and we'll see if we can get it going.
April sounds good.
Okay.
April should be around the end of this year's season of Coffee and Carbuncles, so or possibly start of the new season, depending on how this one goes schedule wise. So yeah, that'd be great
Right.
timing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what you do for the community is super neat too because you're like presenting it you're presenting the community in such a warm and inviting way that is so celebratory of the creativity and interesting people within Final Fantasy. So thank you for what you do too.
A large part of that is that I originally started this podcast because I wanted to give back to the community, but also over the past year, I feel as though there's all sorts of talk online, and there always has been, but I feel like over the past since Dawn Trail, basically, it's gotten a lot worse. Where there's a lot of conceptions of the 14 community is, and then fill in the blank, and there's a lot of that unfortunately tends to be pushed by people that either aren't part of the community or have never been part of the community, and they're like, "This is what the 14 community is." And so in my mind, it's like, well, let me present a different view on the 14 community from that. Let me show you what the 14 community is from more of like the people that are involved with it that aren't necessarily connected to Square Enix, like the people that are making community events, the people that are using the game for various things. Let's take this from a different perspective. And so that's why I think it's really important to have this podcast.
And yeah, I think that like it kind of ties back in with what I was saying about feedback that sure you can ask an individual's perspective, but unless you're having a conversation, then some of the nuance is lost.
I agree. I mean, not only do you need to have a conversation, but it also makes me think of what you said earlier, where you're talking about every year you try and make friends. I think that it's one thing to go to an event, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing with wallflowering if that's what makes you comfortable. But at the same time, go to an event with the mindset of meeting people, because if there's an event and there are a lot of people there, like, Mogstock, sure, but also you're more like cafes and restaurant venues and such. If
Right.
there are people there, even if you try interacting with one person, just one, and even if that's only the host, you're still getting a better sense of community than if you're not interacting with anyone at all. And I think that the more
Absolutely.
you can dive into community, even if it's just sort of like metaphorically putting your toes in the water, I think that you're automatically gaining something from that. You're likely to gain a friend, or you're likely to gain confidence in talking to people. The odds of something negative happening from that, in my experience, are pretty low, but I think that there's a ton to gain.
I agree, and I am very much, make some lemonade out of any lemons. So even if you have a not great experience one place, then there's always 100 other places that you can try, and it's, I guess what I would call it is like the no thank you bite. Like, you don't have to love everything, but try everything, and see if it fits you or not, because you don't know until you actually have the full context and the full experience. And um, yeah, I mean that's kind of one of the elements of Mogstock that we tried to present was that it's, forgive my totally like ridiculous way of putting it, but it's like a sampler platter of what the Final Fantasy experience can be if you let it.
No, that's not ridiculous at all, because that's how I've been viewing Mogstock, funny enough, and I really like that idea of that "no thank you" bite analogy. I might start using that more. I like that. That's very solid.
It was a parenting tool that I used often. Try the Brussels sprout. It turns out kids don't like Brussels sprouts, but at the same time, now you know. Now you know. Um, it's, there's nothing wrong with exploring a little bit and having adventure and looking at even not great experiences with kind of a levity and joy of, well, I know, and it's really not for me. And there's nothing insulting or wrong with saying that something isn't for you. But if you don't have experience with it, then you can't really say it with any kind of authority that it's not for you until you've at least got an idea of what it is that you're saying no thank you to.
That is a very good way to look at it. And on that note, I will say that first off, if you didn't go to Mogfest or Mogstock, sorry, this year, then go next year and see about the no thank you bite. You might love it, and if you don't, then you gave it a try. But also, I think that that is a very solid place to end this catch up.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you for
It's been
coming
so,
back. I mean,
well, you're one of those friends that I would say that I made this year from Mogstock. That, like I said,
aw,
I usually put in my, to-do list of just, for personal. Like, this is what I want. This year is I want to add at least 3 new friends. And I made way more than 3 new friends. But the ones that stick out in my mind, Quade's amazing little assistant that has gone from barding into like just the confidence that she has seen grow has been amazing. And then Vale and her Highland Lassies, like I love them. I think that they're amazing, and I love all bands, but yeah, I admit it. I'm giving you know Vale an extra shout out just because of the ingenuity and like, are you kidding me right now? But yeah, Krista is Clade's assistant. And she got to perform at Mogstock, and she was in the Rainbow Rangers, and her enthusiasm for the festival was just so inviting and wonderful and warm. And then you who embraced without even knowing, just other than like, what you'd heard on the street of Mogstock, those are 3 things that will sit with me and that will stay with me and kind of are, I guess you'd say it's not like those 3 things are individually the reason, it's more like they're representative of the reason that we keep doing this every year. These experiences, these new friendships, these moments, and I know that my moments are different than other people's moments, but I want everybody to have their own moments, right? And I know that everybody that is an organizer of Mogstock shares that philosophy that we are hoping that you don't have to get, people don't have to have all the same experience. We just want them to have a good experience.
And hopefully, Mogstock 2027 will be an even better experience. So, Brayley and I will see you there. And in the meantime, Brayley and I both have furry, four-legged cat overlords to go answer to. So,
Exactly. Thank you so much, Nobu, and Mogstock 2027. Here we come. See you there.
take care, everyone. Take care, Brayley.
Bye.